Hey guys, welcome to the show. So I've been reading the comments. I know some of you aren't very fond of these videos, and some of you are really fond of these videos. These videos for me are easier to create, and I'm able to say a lot more things than I normally would say. A well-polished, refined art that I create takes sometimes weeks to create. If it doesn't get that many views, it really wasn't worth creating. Something like this where I could say what's on my mind about the market, say what's on my mind about what's happening in this space, it helps out a great deal. Now, I wanted to talk to you guys about a couple things today: the automated market maker as well as think tanks. So when I interviewed Andrew Busmati, and you can check out this interview, go to the XX Network on YouTube and subscribe to their channel. Make sure you subscribe and go to their channel on Twitter and subscribe to that. Listen to this video. I want to play you a clip from this and listen to what Andrew has to say. Like, trust has completely been eroded from the top down, and at the same time, our money is being eroded. Inflation has hit record highs. Our debt to GDP are at all-time high. And, you know, these circumstances throughout history have always surrounded something that was transformational, that was about to happen, a new world order, so to speak, a new structure to power. So my question is towards Andrew. Are there people in the CIA and intelligence agencies that think about these things from like an economic standpoint? Like people outside of Powell and Yellen that just, you know, kind of comfort the markets? Are there people that, you know, there's think tanks like what I'm just talking about? Does that happen?
Yeah, essentially the way that we do it, Darren, is you don't trust that kind of calculation or assessment to a staffer. You don't keep that in-house. You go to a think tank and you work with think tanks, multiple think tanks, to get their assessments. So it's no secret that some of the closest partners with CIA and NSA are commercial entities, right? Booz Allen Hamilton, Deloitte, CACI. I mean, the list goes on, and they'll get multiple assessments every year from these individuals because they employ, you know, effective economists, senior economists, and researchers, and they can come up with a sort of estimate about what is reasonable to expect in the next 12 to 24 months regarding macroeconomics and things of that sort. So it's better to outsource it to a specialty group or lean into any one of the relationships that we have with leading institutions, right? Colleges, universities, et cetera, because that's where the information comes from. And we trust American institutions because they're some of the leading institutions in the world. So it's very easy to kind of sign a 5-year.
We trust American institutions because they're the best in the world. Andrew Busmati, CIA spy, says that the U.S. government will pick certain big corporates with senior economic advisors that are able to plan for something that happens. So an example of this is BlackRock's going direct plan. What happened with BlackRock's going direct plan? Well, it was a white paper that laid out the entire response to C-19. The entire response. The government handing out stimulus checks, how the Fed would have to start buying junk bonds. Powell was not in control. BlackRock wrote a white paper that gave them directions on everything to do. So Powell may be the face, but it's this. And you know what's ironic about this is when I was asking questions to Andrew, he said, you know, you're seeing things conspiratorial. Well, how else am I going to see things? If you're telling me that there's senior economists from an American institution that gives directions to the Fed, that gives directions to the Treasury, right? They're controlling those organizations. Some outside corporate controls what's in front of us, right? So this was a bearable guy, Riddle, right? And that's what he's saying. The powers that be, they're in control, but don't worry, Ripple's part of this. Don't worry, Ripple is part of this entire thing, right? If you look back at some of these things, right? That's what Bearable Guy was saying. Now, we know this is true. You know how we know this is true? This is the Faster Payments Task Force. The Faster Payments Task Force is a coalition of large banks, large payment providers, the top of the top in the United States, came together and works directly with the Federal Reserve. Ripple is a part of this organization, has employees for this organization that represents the Faster Payments Task Force, like Ryan Zagone and others. This is a Ripple and U.S. Faster Payments Task Force. Transforming the way money moves, a special report, U.S. Faster Payments Council and Ripple on the transformative opportunities of crypto-enabled payments and what's leading providers expect next. So this is one of those think tanks that Andrew is describing. This is one of those think tanks. When the Fed leans on somebody to give them guidance on crypto-enabled payments, digital currencies, all this stuff, they're going to go to the Faster Payments Council, which Ripple's a part of. Not only is Ripple a part of the Faster Payments Council in the United States, here is Anthony Welfare at the Digital Euro Association, which is also a think tank. They actually advertise it as Digital Euro Think Tank. I've seen it in other places. Listen to this, though. Listen to this.
Maybe that cost does go down very well, but I think that's a generational change, or a number of generations. So what are we learning? So we've got 2 announced projects, and then we've got 5 under NDA. Royal Monetary Authority of Bhutan is a real CBDC, so there's a central bank, and they've issued a currency, and that's very much at decent stages at the moment. And Palau is actually a US dollar stablecoin. So Palau has its own government, but no central bank, so they use the US dollar. So we're issuing, on the public blockchain, on the public XRP ledger, a USD stablecoin for this country to use. That's actually quite interesting for innovation, because there's other things can be done with that.
Palau is issuing a dollar stable coin on the XRP ledger. You just heard it out of Anthony Welfare's mouth, yet I hear people trying to argue that it's not. You just heard it out of his mouth. That's what he said. It's going to be issued on the XRP ledger. Now, this is really interesting, right? Because the nation of Palau is a result of the United States imperialism. It's a result of, you know, the economic hitman. Palau is a small nation where it works hand in hand with the U.S. government and has military bases in Palau positioned for Taiwan in case something happens in Taiwan. So it's a naval base there. Now, they talk directly to the Fed. They work with the Fed. As a matter of fact, there was a leader in Palau not so long ago that was assassinated, and the FBI did an investigation, kind of just swept it under the rug and said nothing happened. But anyway, there's a new leader, Sergey Whips, and he has talked about talking with the Treasury over this, talking with the U.S. Treasury over this, talking with the U.S. Federal Reserve over this. So they're working hand in hand with the Fed and Treasury to issue this stable coin on the XRP ledger. This is a document that came from the Bank of England, March 29th, 2023. They talk about cross-border payments. Now, recently, Ripple has released a bunch of new ODL partners that are in trade. They're not in remittances. So global corporates move nearly 23.5 trillion across countries annually, equivalent to 25% of global GDP. That's a huge number, 25% of global GDP. So the SMEs, the corporate treasuries that Ripple's targeting, is a much bigger market than just remittances. So 87% of merchants executives see cross-border online sales as their biggest growth potential. So there's more and more of these different, you know, like TransferWise and different financial technology companies that people are using. Instead of using your bank, I'm using TransferWise for international payments. I'm not using the bank anymore. So these these fintechs can partner up with Ripple fairly cheaply and compete against everybody else using the XRP ledger. So the value of cross-border payments is forecast to increase to almost 150 trillion in 2017 to 250 trillion by 2027. This is going to pick up exponentially, especially as cross-border payments get cheaper and cheaper to send. The remittance market to low and middle income countries are estimated to have an increase of 10.2% in 2021, and a further 4.9% in 2022 to reach 626 billion. Remittance inflows can be as high as 50% of GDP for some countries. So, I got into this tech as a speculator. I want to make money, and probably most of you do too. That's why we're in this. But, you don't have to just be some cold-hearted person that doesn't care about what the technology does. This is awesome. I mean, imagine people's lives that get affected by remittances. 50% of their GDP for some countries. Imagine paying 50% on fees. I mean, I probably pay 50% on taxes, and it kills me, right? These people are paying 50% just on fees. I mean, that's nuts. And I mean, the world will become a better place, as technology makes it a better place. Technology is deflationary, and we're fighting a system that's completely inflationary. Look at this. CHAPS migrates to ISO 222. Now, there's all this craziness surrounding ISO 222, but that was the end game. This whole thing, ISO 222, is interoperability between fintechs, banks, non-banks. It's to make this all connect. And that was a big step. And, it may have not been the moon date some people were saying it was going to be, but it was a huge step. You have changed the entire CHAPS system, payment system, into this open payment system where everybody could tap into England's payment system, their real-time gross settlement system. So cross-border payments are synchronized. A lot of what's happening with the Bank of England sounds a lot like interledger, overledger. The more documents that I'm seeing, there's more synchronization techniques. Now, this is China Bank. If you don't recall, China Bank was a Philippine bank, right? They issued this financial and sustainability report. Now, we partnered with Qatar National Bank to facilitate direct remittances from Qatar to Philippines via RippleNet. QNB is the largest financial institution in the Middle East and Africa, while RippleNet is a globally recognized financial platform for fast cross-border transactions using blockchain technology. Knowing that digitalization, not just presence, is crucial in providing more convenient, fast, secure, and affordable remittance services, we began the development of a digital adaptive remittance system to replace our current remittance system. So they just completely ripped out their old system and plugged in a new system, RippleNet. Now, the Philippines is a smaller country that can do stuff like that. When you have really complex payment systems like England, the US, there's a migration process, right? It's a bigger process. You can't just rip out the old and put in a new. In smaller countries, that's possible, though. That's why we saw more development with smaller countries. So, this is Kiwi Tech, a case study, a cost and time effective solution for cross-border financial transactions. Look, you see the Ethereum logo back here, but this is using Stellar. And their aim is to replace Swift. See, here's Stellar blockchain. This is their tech stack. So they're using Python, SQL, and Stellar. And about the client, a fintech startup based out of London that is building technology to provide financial institutions with new plumbing for international payments. Their focus is to provide financial institutions with a revolutionary alternative that displaces the current payments network like Swift to deliver international payments at less than 1.5% instantly. So, we get into this tribalism where it's Ripple, it's XRP, no, it's Stellar, but at the end of the day, all of these fintechs, all of these smaller things are going to replace the bigger thing. That's it. And we, as part of a decentralized community, as part of the XRP community, we're going to contribute to liquidity that's going to help this process. We're going to contribute to automated market makers that have liquidity where people can move money from different currencies, from different crypto assets, from different everything. And that's going to snowball. That's going to provide a platform that big players can tap into and use if they need to, or smaller players. Really, the smaller players are the reason the big players are big. So if the smaller players just use a platform, use smaller platforms to move money, the system has changed. The entire system has changed. So Kiwi Tech dug that up. I did have a video about the automated market maker, but it was way too long, so I'm going to separate that and put it into a new video. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. If you enjoy content like this, please consider joining my Patreon or my Ghost site, which accepts Stripe. My Ghost site is dmjr.ghost.io.